A brand asked me recently, what are the most important metrics I need to be looking at to not only scale my brand, but to be profitable? And there's actually 9. So there's 9 metrics me and my team of e-commerce strategists use to make decisions. Now, it may seem like a lot. A couple of them tell you which ones mean to keep scaling, which ones mean to kill things, and which ones we use just as directional confirmations that things are doing what we think they're doing, but also who is responsible for what. And that'll make sense in a second. So in this video, I want to show you what those 9 are, explain what they are, and explain how we use them. So I believe that they're the reason why we're quite successful. I believe it's the reason why a lot of our brands are quite profitable that we work with, because those 9 metrics are really like our North Stars that determine, like I said, when to spend budget, when to pull back budget, when brands are wildly profitable, so just keep spending money. Also tells you what's not working too. So let's walk through what they are. Okay, so we call these key metrics for growth marketing. Now, regardless of what advertising platform you're using, I'm gonna use Meta as an example. The great thing is that these metrics are also transferable for all platforms. And that's why I like it, is because it takes into account the business as a whole, which is really what you should be always looking at before you really make true marketing decisions. So let's walk through what they are. Okay, so why this is important is all those 9 metrics, which I'm gonna be explaining in this video, are actually shown inside of our daily reporting. Now, this is a sheet. We also have it automated now as well, but all of these core 9 metrics are here. I'll walk you through what they are in a few moments. But why we do this is because we like those metrics to be broken out daily. For every single day, we want to see all those metrics across the line. And the reason why we like that is because what a lot of people do is they may look at some of these metrics, but they'll look at just that metric in isolation. No. You need to look at it within the full context of the business side by side every day, because you start to notice trends that way. You start to notice some correlations that way. You start to notice when some things are good, some things are bad. And I like the relationship it shows when it's side by side. So what are those 9 metrics? Okay. So here they are. For in-platform rules, meaning what we keep and what we kill, we use ROAS, CPA, and this is click attribution, okay? For scaling metrics, meaning metrics we look at to tell us spend more money, we look at MER and contribution profit. And then for directional confirmation, that gives us the directional cues that, hey, things are doing what they're supposed to be doing, or something is wrong. We look at these. AMER, which is acquisition MER, new customer percentage of revenue, new customer CPA, and contribution profit yet again. So let's walk through each one of those. So ROAS and CPA, and also click attribution, which isn't on here, is we use those to help us determine in platform, what do we keep and what do we kill, specifically on the ad level and ad set level. While there's different arguments around Meta's reporting correctly and attribution softwares you use, you still need some element of that. Now, while we don't live and die by ROAS, in fact, the complete opposite, because ROAS is quite misleading. And I've seen a lot of brands who ROAS themselves out of business because they weren't getting enough volume because they had this ROAS cap on themselves. We still look at it because we look at, on one side of the fence, what's the in-platform CPA and ROAS, and outside the fence, what's the health of the business? And we start to triangulate what is the accurate in-platform ROAS in relation to the business overall. For example, we learned this lesson many years ago where we actually had a fashion brand. And that fashion brand, we turned on some new video ads. And over the weekend, in-platform ROAS for the entire account was actually pretty poor. It was like a 1.1, awful. But gross sales overall were amazing. They were doing $30,000 and $40,000 and $50,000 days. The first they ever did those numbers. And Meta was its #1 traffic source, okay, by a long shot. So that means Meta has a high correlation to their Shopify sales. Well, we turned the ads off over the weekend because like, man, the in-platform just really sucks. We got a call from that brand on Monday. And the brand said, what did you do? We're like, okay, like, what do you mean what we do? We just managed the account over the weekend. She's like, no, what changes did you do? And we tell her, well, we turned these assets and campaigns off because they weren't performing. Like Meta was giving them a lot of spend, but they weren't performing. She said, turn them back on. We're like, okay, why? She said, because I've never had those sales ever before. And it also coincides with some stuff that you guys launched right before the weekend hit. Turn it back on. Let's see what happens. So we turned it back on. Sales went right back up to 40 and 50K a day, even though the ROAS reported in platform was terrible. below break even technically. That taught us a really great lesson that what's in the Meta platform, yes, while it still is important, it doesn't mean it's the full visibility on the impact it's having on the business overall. So what that means is for that brand, and we kept on scaling from there, what it meant was for us, we found out that if in platform was on a 1.5x, outside of platform, the impact typically was quite good. And that's the hardest part about being a really good media buyer and specifically a really good marketer now is to understand those patterns. So as a long-winded way of saying, we look ROAS and CPA to make in-platform decisions. And we don't just pick the one that has the highest ROAS and lowest CPA. It's actually a terrible mistake because Meta will put budget behind the things that has the greatest impact on the business. And so we have some ad accounts that Meta's putting a lot of budget behind ads that on the face of it don't look so great, but the impact they're having on the ad account, the system, and the business is actually quite remarkable. So we look at those metrics in platform and then click attribution because we want the majority of purchases that are happening from ads to be from people who actually clicked on an ad and not just view the ad. Then we have MER and contribution profit. These tell us spend more money. MER is your gross sales divided by total marketing spend, which is marketing efficiency ratio. Why I like this one is because it takes into account the business as a whole. Every brand that we work with, when they come to us, we determine, well, what's your break-even MER as a business, including overheads and all your costs of your business, because that tells us right there, for example, a brand working with right now, their break-even MER is a 1.67, meaning for every $1 they spend, their business has to get $1.67 back at a certain volume to just break even. Okay, cool. Once we know that, okay, if they want to make 10% net profit, 20% net profit, whatever that profit target is, then you can calculate, okay, what is the MER you need at what volume to make that happen? And I like that because it's one metric that my team can look at instantly and know is the brand making a profit or not making a profit instantly, taking into account what we know about their overheads and everything else. And I like that. What that tells us is, because every brand we work with, once we understand those two numbers, we then come up with revenue and profit targets where as long as we're above those numbers at a certain target, just keep spending money and make as much money as possible. And that's why we like it, because we look at that one metric and now we instantly know, keep spending more money or pull back money or pull back budget. The other one is contribution profit, which is sales minus total cost of goods or cost of deliveries, another way, minus total marketing spend, tells us what is the revenue that's actually contributing to our actual net profit at the end of the day. I like that number because you have MER, which is like a ratio that shows overall business. Then you have contribution profit, which shows what's actually contributing. And why I like that number is because all of our brands, typically, once we understand their numbers, we know, for example, hey, we need to be making at least $3,000 a day in contribution profit for us to break even. So what that tells us is, because it also is a great indicator of telling you to spend more money, is as long as that is above $3,000 for that day, just keep spending money. And so these two metrics side by side tell us the overall MER and then contribution profit, which is actually incrementally adding to the bottom line, are really covering our overheads. And those two metrics right there tell us spend more, spend less, or do nothing. Okay, and the last ones are directional confirmations. And I like these ones because, for example, if we look at in-platform, ROAS and CPA and click attribution, that tells us what ad sets to keep on. Then we look at MER and contribution profit, means spend more money, spend less money, do nothing. Then we look at these to give us confirmation, meaning, so AMER stands for acquisition marketing efficiency ratio, which essentially is just how efficient is our advertising doing in actually getting new customers, because it's new customer sales divided by total marketing spend. I believe advertising's job is to drive net new customers. So what that means is this is an instant metric that tells us how efficient it's doing. So for example, we have some brands that they say, as long as I break even on acquisition, just keep spending money. So for them, we know for every $1 we spend, we need to get $1.56 back for them to break even. So that tells my team, okay, is MER, contribution profit good? Great. Is our advertising doing its job and hitting its targets? Great. Keep spending money. The next one is percentage of new customer revenue. This is one of my favorite ones because it tells us what's doing its job, I believe. Meaning it's gross sales divided by new customer revenue, which tells you, let me just kind of go back real quick. This one right here, you see that new customer revenue, that line right there? What percentage of our daily revenue every single day is coming from new customers? Why I like that one is because typically most scaling brands, they're probably sitting at 60, 70% of their daily revenue is coming from new customers, which means advertising is is very efficient. It's really filling up the funnel, filling up buying new customers. Why I really like it is because if it goes too high, meaning 90%, ask why. Well, was there in a marketing event that spiked it for that day? But if it's over several days, okay, why is that? Is it we're spending a crap ton more money, or crap, do we have a returning customer problem? For example, there was a brand that we worked with last year where they came to us because profit wasn't looking so good. And we've been working with them for some time. And because we had this number, we looked at it within 30 seconds. We said, okay, well, what's happening? Your new customer revenue went from 70% to 90%. What the heck is happening? Because for an e-commerce brand, most of your profit is going to be coming from your returning customers. Come to find out, they hadn't been sending emails, they hadn't launched any new products in a few months, they weren't doing any kind of activation efforts to get people to come back. Well, that's the problem right there. Your business is living off of just first-time customers from ads, which has very low margin. And so that metric told us immediately, well, let's start doing some activation efforts again. They started doing it, that number came down, profit came up. And that's why I like that number. Then you have ncpa, which is cost to acquire a new customer. That's total marketing spend divided by new customer orders. It's very similar to AMER. It's just looking on the other side of the coin. This is the cost. So while in platform, you have CPA, which includes probably all new customers and return customers. I like ncpa because it stands for cost to acquire a customer. I like that one because it tells as a business overall, because typically brands are doing different marketing efforts, different channels. Are we acquiring new customers on the macro within a target that makes sense, that is profitable? And I like that number. And the last one is, like others, is contribution profit. That's just a massive true north metric for us, that before we spend more money, we go through all these 4 confirmation metrics, meaning AMER, are we hitting targets? Great. Percentage of new customer revenue, any issues there? Nope, great. ncpa, across the entire business, is our ncpa holding constant? Great. And if that is, and the last one is we're above the line in terms of the contribution profit we need for that day? Great. Let's just keep spending money. And this is the decision making that we go through for each of our brands as we're scaling them. And that's why we scale brands profitably, because we're taking into account the business as a whole. So those are the 9 metrics we use to absolutely crush meta ads for all the brands that we work with. If you are a brand and you're interested, let me know. I actually have a calendar link at the bottom of this video where you can schedule a call with me. If nothing else, worst case scenario, you'll meet a new person. I can give you some value and you can be on your way. But if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, guys. Please subscribe, please like. And if you just thought this was valuable, let me know in the comments, because it gives me the good feelings to keep making more videos for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.